So we've had another mass shooting in Michigan, and there's these girls. There's two of them that say they're talking about that they've lived through two shootings now, and all this other stuff. And yeah, you were in the vicinity of it. So I'm going to tell you about a real story about really living through school shooting. I have a friend who was in Columbine, and he was actually in the room when Darren Harris walked into the first. He was in the cafeteria when Darren Harris opened fire for the first time, and he was shot. And he developed a massive infection which turned into meningitis, and he nearly died. And he ended up becoming a U.S. Marine after he graduated and went to Iraq and served his country. And I was having a conversation with him. I'm not going to get into who he is or what his name is. If you do your research, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. I lived in Denver for 8 years, and he actually was a stage tech with me. And I found out who he was after watching a documentary, actually. He never even talked about it. And so we were just sitting down and talking about this, and he brought up some points. Some points that I didn't realize were going to become so poignant in my life until now. One of the things that he really struggled with after that was post-traumatic stress disorder. And he went to the Marine Corps not even knowing about PTSD, and went through his entire period. He had a pretty terrible second deployment. He was involved in 2 IED attacks, one of which killed his bunk mate. And he was his dear friend, and he was more ripped up over that than anything else. And one of the things that he talked about that I'm now dealing with and facing face on. Now I have a bilateral frontal lobe brain injury, and I've spent my entire life dealing with brain injury. I also have post-traumatic stress disorder from prolonged abuse as a child, and even as an adolescent, which I'm also not going to get into. But in 2019, I started to struggle badly with obsessive compulsive disorder. It's become a serious thing, and it's become completely incapacitating. I can't function like a normal human being without doing OCD, and it's cost me my job, my pilot's license, really everything. And I've been on medication. I've been on all kinds of therapies. And the thing I'm running into more and more is the more this goes, the more I actually need help, the less my insurance is willing to pay for, the less my insurance is willing to do, the less options that we're seeing that we actually have. You always hear about, oh, well, why don't you just go get, it's better than killing yourself. Go to the hospital, da-da-da. And I'm here to tell you point blank that if your options are to kill yourself or go to a hospital, you might just consider killing yourself, because going to a hospital is one of the worst things you're ever going to experience. You're going to be locked up. You're going to be treated like shit. They're going to give you medications. They may know what they're doing. They may not know what they were doing. I'm deathly allergic to a medication called Tegretol. I have a Steven Johnson's-like reaction from it, which causes my skin to literally start falling off. And the woman who was doing my psych eval, when I told her no, it says it clearly in my paperwork. You cannot give me Tegretol. I have a Steven Johnson's-like reaction. She began arguing, got upset, said I was being very rude. And I told her, no, I'm not being rude. I'm telling you, you can't give me this medication. She said, well, I'll give you whatever medication I decide. And then gave me prescribed an injection of Tegretol, which is not even an injectable medication. But she wanted them to give me an injection of Tegretol. And the nurse practitioner said, I can't give this to you because he has a drug allergy. And it was almost as if she was, I've said it, so that's what's going to happen. Had nothing to do with logic or anything. The woman was foreign. She was not from this country. She could barely speak English. And generally, in all of the times that I've been hospitalized, that's been my experience. I've dealt with a foreigner who doesn't listen, who doesn't care about what you have to say, and they always find that you need to be locked up and that you need to go and be in this facility. And then they go and lock you up, and they keep you there for 10 or 15 days, and then they make you sign a contract that says you're not going to kill yourself, and then they let you go, and the whole entire time you're in there, they treat you like an animal or like a fucking, like a 10-year-old. They treat you like shit, and then they just dump you and they tell you, okay, well, we've given you this medication, now take it. And if you don't take it, whether it's good or not, they just stop treating you. And every time that happens, the insurance companies then list you as untreatable, or that you resist treatments, which is not a true statement. So this is what's going on. But to make things worse, and I'm running into this regularly, psychiatrists, when I start presenting them with the OCD, you can see them going back to their book and reading that tiny little bit of information that was all gathered in the early 1900s by Freudian scientists who wanted to prove that there was a difference between the male and the female and the African brain. This came from information that was biased from the start, and we're still running on it. So the reason I'm talking about this is because we keep having these mass shootings. We keep having these events. And more, it's a person who was showing signs from start to finish. Another thing, every time it happens, the very first thing you see is people, liberals, on social media ranting about white people and guns. And now we have people who have lived through both of these experiences going to saying that we need to have better gun control. Nobody ever says, why the fuck is this happening now? Why is this all of a sudden happening? Why is this happening in mass? And why is this a thing that only comes up after years and years and years and years of a society that's been driven by media? Well, I'm going to tell you point blank why it's happening. A, we have created a society that is incapable of dealing with things that they don't like. So they shut out things that they don't like. And a person who's dealing with mental illness is going to be somebody that nobody likes. Then when the person goes to get help, they don't get help. They get drugs. When those drugs don't work, the insurance that's supposed to protect them doesn't protect them. It lists them and labels them as whatever is easiest to keep the investors happy and what makes money. And then that person eventually hits a point where they believe that they are no longer have a voice or are valid or whatever, and they snap. To make things worse, we now have social media that is systematically shutting down people when it doesn't like what they have to say. And it may be something they said that's dangerous, or it may just be something that's not politically PC at the time. And they can shut that person out from their ability to contact other people. When you have the ability to wipe a person's ability to seek help out, then the help that they're going to go get is not helpful. You end up with a person that's hopeless. And what do hopeless people do? They do psycho shit. Most of them commit suicide, become addicted to drugs or alcohol, or spiral off, or they try to get help themselves, and they end up just living the rest of their life with it. There are many cases of people who have gone to get mental health help and have gotten mental health help. But to be honest with you, after having my personal experiences, a lot of those people are not people who deal with it at the level that people like I do, and people like my friend do. People like a lot of the vets that we're dealing with that come home and they can barely function. We have had a war going on for 20 years now. This is the reality that we live in today. We have created a society that has no place for men, no place for whites, no place for blacks, no place for people. Everything is segregated. Everything is constantly about who is bad and who is whatever. And it will always apply to you. So if you're a person who is easily swayed by that, that's going to be something that's going to weigh on you. We don't have a gun problem in this country. We have a mental health crisis. We have a mental illness crisis. And more than anything, we have a crisis amongst the medical community, namely the mental health community. They do not help. They oftentimes create more trauma. The experiences that I went through in my personal time being locked up are far more traumatizing than what I was dealing with outside. When I was outside, I wasn't locked in a room with a person who had sex, who tried to have sex with me. I wasn't locked into a room where I was told that I had to complete sexual favors to put my clothes back on. But when I was locked in Provo, that's what I was going through. That's what thousands of boys who went to Provo Canyon School went through. That's what thousands of girls who went to Provo Canyon School went through. That's what thousands of people who go to these medical facilities to seek help or get sent to them go through. So you're locking these people up in a situation that has the potential to be every bit as dangerous as prison. That's our options. Basically, you get locked up. Either you get drugged out, you get locked up, or you get shunned from fucking society. And society now shuns people for things that don't even fucking make sense. We should be shunning these fucking degenerates running around calling themselves claiming LGBTQ and all these other fucking things when they're not. They're not gay. They're not any of these things. They are degenerates. They are absolute degenerates hiding behind shit like that. They're degenerates hiding behind politics. Degenerates hiding behind fucking social media and standard media and social justice and all of these things that allow them to be able to reach out from behind a wall and punch you in the mouth whenever they want to, but you don't have the ability to fire back. You have created a society that is intolerant, incapable of understanding, and unwilling to do anything to create any sort of change in that. Not only that, they now attack people who do try to make an effort or try to change the status quo. And now we have a situation in which we have people who are snapping and doing shit like this. And I'm sorry, but where are all the left liberals talking about how white people, all of the shootings are white people and white people are dangerous and white... The last 4 shootings that we've had have been by an Asian, a black dude, a woman... a 64-year-old woman from not even from the same state, and a fucking Indian kid. I'm sorry, but everything you're saying is being proven wrong. But if anybody says, no, that's wrong, you're wrong, even though you're wrong, you're not allowed to say that if it's politically correct. That is a scary fucking place to be. So we are creating these fucking people. We're cultivating them. We're giving them the exact tools that we need to. And then we're blaming the tools for their actions. I'll be honest with you. I've been around the public quite a bit. I'm 38 years old. I've never once seen a pack of roving AKs going around walking around, getting ready to shoot people. It's a person that picks it up and goes and does it. And if you take guns away, they'll go get knives, swords, cars, bombs, gas, whatever they need to do what they need to feel as if they're gaining their control back or their power back or whatever the fuck it is. You've made people powerless and you have created these situations, and now this is what's happening, and we have no mental health. We have no help. Nobody's fucking coming. Nobody's coming. It's just us. It's pathetic. So stop telling me that you've lived through 2 of these fucking things and we need to take away guns. That's like saying, I've had 2 fucking heart attacks. It's time for us to burn down every single dairy farm. Why? Well, because cheese on my cheeseburgers is what caused me to have a heart attack. No, you being a cow and eating fucking 55 cheeseburgers caused you to have a heart attack trying to push those motherfuckers out on the damn bog. That's why that happened. It has nothing to do with the cheese. It has to do with you and how you're acting with it. Stop blaming other things for your actions and start taking responsibility. More than that, start at least allow people to say what they fucking need to say, because you're going to start finding that everything that's being told to us is a lie, and it's not being done by accident. This is intentional. It's designed to create this. This is a symptom. It is a byproduct. It is not the problem. It is a symptom of the problem. And until we get our shit together and we start acknowledging that This is going to continue. And I'm sorry, but I shouldn't have to be kicked off of social media because I have enough of the ability to look up from my fucking cell phone for a little while to be able to see the world around me and say, something's fucking wrong here. Something's seriously fucking wrong. Because something is fucking wrong here. Something's seriously wrong. And until we start fucking acknowledging it, this is going to be our reality. And it's going to get worse. So you can take guns away all you want. But point fucking blank, a disarmed society is a society under rule.